Grandma, it's hot in here. Can I go out of the room? No, you can't. I'm going shopping now. You stay here? My daughter was lightly nudged back into the room as she tried to leave with my mother-in-law. My 5-year-old daughter usually goes to daycare, but when I have to work on Sundays, I have no choice but to rely on my in-laws. So I ended up leaving my daughter with my mill, but it seemed like she had no intention of actually looking after her. The room my mill shoved my daughter into was the room my husband, Mike, used to use. It's now pretty much a storage room with nothing for a child to play with. Moreover, it's upstairs and has a large window, so it still feels oppressively hot even when the window is open. Today, there's a heat advisory, and the sealed room is over 95 degrees Fahrenheit. My smug mill then grabs the air conditioner remote. Well, gotta save energy, LOL? Without hesitation, she pressed the button to turn off the AC/C. Then she slammed the door shut and blocked it with a stack of magazines so my daughter couldn't get out. I am Alice, 32 years old. I live in an apartment near my in-laws with my husband Mike, who is 3 years older than me, and our daughter Emily, who turned 5 this year. My father-in-law passed away within a year after Emily was born. So, currently, only my mill and sister-in-law, Sarah, live in the in-law house. Sarah lived alone in her 20s, but moved back home to take care of her mother after my father-in-law died. Sarah and I are close in age and get along like real sisters. Although I see Sarah regularly and our relationship is good, my relationship with my mill, the head of the in-law family, is far from pleasant. This is because she adores her own son and daughter and seemed to be jealous when I married Mike. Furthermore, when I was pregnant, she made a face when she found out it was a girl. Why a girl? I was planning to spoil a boy. What a letdown, she snapped loudly, as if the baby in my belly could hear. I was too shocked to respond. At the time, Mike scolded her, saying, "Mom, why would you say such a thing? This will be your first grandchild. And gender doesn't matter." But Mill just sulked without showing any regret. Later, Sarah came to apologize, saying, "Alice, I'm really sorry about what my mom said. Due to past incidents, my mill treats not just me but also my young daughter, Emily, as if we're nuisances. My husband Mike and my sister-in-law have repeatedly tried to correct my mill's attitude towards us, but to no avail. Since Mike and I both work, there are times when we have to leave Emily with my in-laws. However, given my mill's usual behavior, I find it difficult to fully trust her. Our mill doesn't think highly of Emily, and before I married Mike, I heard from him that she nearly killed her pet dog. She left the dog in a room with the air conditioning off during the peak of summer. Luckily, her late husband noticed in time and rushed the dog to the vet, saving its life. The dog later passed away from old age. My mill never seemed genuinely remorseful, and because of that, I can't help but worry she might do something harmful again, even unintentionally. Currently, it's the middle of summer. The heat is so intense it's unbearable even for adults, so naturally, a 5-year-old like Emily needs air conditioning. So every time I leave Emily at my in-laws during the summer, I always ask them to make sure the air conditioning is on. Despite my concerns, my mill always reluctantly complies, grumbling about wasting electricity each time. I've felt uncomfortable every time she has said this. The person who defends me from my mill's passive-aggressive comments is my sil. Mom, stop saying that to Alice. Running the AC in the summer isn't a waste. We're all in the same room anyway. Besides, you're the one who leaves unused lights on all the time. Oh, is that so? Yes, it is. Just yesterday, you left the TV on even though you weren't watching it. You also leave lights on in the bathroom and laundry room. If you're going to talk about saving electricity, start with yourself. I had been aware of my Mill's bad habits, but it doesn't look like she's going to change anytime soon. Despite our grumbling Mill, we were really grateful that my Sil was more than happy to look after Emily for us. She has a regular 9-to-5 job with little overtime and is always willing to look after Emily. Emily has been attending daycare since she was 3, so we don't rely on my in-laws too often. Given my concerns about my Mill, we try not to ask for their help as much as possible. But Mike and I sometimes get late-night work calls or have to work on weekends. On Sundays when the daycare is closed, we had no choice but to ask my in-laws for help. Late in July on a Sunday, both Mike and I had work commitments and had to go to the office. Mike is aware that my Mill isn't fond of me or Emily and is usually considerate about it. But on this day, we reluctantly had to ask her to look after Emily. Be a good girl at Grandma's house, okay. After waving goodbye to Mike, who left first, I came to my in-laws' house with Emily and said that while patting her head. Okay, Emily quietly nodded, but didn't even try to look up at my Mill. Although she's always been an easygoing child, I couldn't help but feel uneasy as she obediently walked into the house. I could tell that even at her young age, Emily sensed that she's not liked by my Mill, which breaks my heart. Mill, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I'll try to finish up work as quickly as possible to pick up Emily. Also, there's a heat alert today. Please take care and stay hydrated. And Emily, make sure to drink your water. It's been scorching lately, with temperatures exceeding 86 degrees Fahrenheit. But today is especially hot. Although I assumed that my Mill wouldn't hesitate to run the air conditioning, she made an obvious face of displeasure when I mentioned it. I get it, okay. Honestly, I wish you would consider my situation before dumping Emily on me, my Mill grumbled, clearly annoyed. I'm sorry, I bowed my head, determined to wrap up work quickly and pick up Emily, and left my in-laws' house. However, I would later regret not being more concerned about my Mill's attitude. 3 hours after leaving Emily, my phone rang just as I was heading back to my in-laws' house. It was Emily. Before dropping her off, I'd given her a kid's cell phone just in case. Hello, Emily, I answered with a sense of unease and heard a timid, fragile voice saying, Mom, when are you coming to get me? I'm on my way, sweetheart. I'll be there soon. Just hang tight, okay? I reassured her as I walked. But then she said, Mom, hurry, in a voice that sounded rushed and tense. Something felt off. When I asked if something had happened, she fell silent. Just as I was about to break into a cold sweat, wondering if my Mill had done something to Emily, she uttered, Mom, help me. Realizing the gravity of the situation, I rushed to my in-laws' house without asking for any more details. When I got there, my Mill was nowhere to be found. Maybe she went out shopping. But since Emily's shoes were by the front door, she must be home. When I didn't find her downstairs, I went up to the second floor, where I saw a stack of magazines blocking the door to a room. This room used to be Mike's when he lived at home. I had a bad feeling, so I quickly moved the magazines and opened the door. That's when I faced a shocking situation. Not long after, my Mill came home in high spirits. This was 3 hours after I'd left Emily at my in-laws' house. However, her mood instantly changed when she saw the ambulance parked in front of the house and someone being carried into it. "What the hell is going on here?" she screamed, rushing toward us, who were standing near the ambulance. Mike had just arrived, so the three of us, including Emily, were all there. My Mill pushed us aside and shouted into the ambulance, "Sarah, oh my God, what happened?" Yes, the one who had just been carried into the ambulance was her daughter, Sarah. Sarah lays there limp, unresponsive even to her mother's cries. Why is it Sarah and not Emily in this state? My Mill, who was still trying to make sense of it all, glared at Emily, who was clinging to me. I felt anger boiling up at my Mill's attitude, but Mike stepped up before I could say anything. "So it was you, wasn't it, Mom?" "What? What are you talking about?" My Mill, cornered by Mike, looked away as if she knew nothing. "Mill, cut the crap. We know you locked Emily in the room and turned off the AC." Caught off guard, my Mill started to stammer, "No." Well, I had just heard from Emily that my Mill had intentionally locked her in an upstairs room and turned off the AC. The room upstairs gets hotter than downstairs. Temperatures can go above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. She must have known what would happen to a 5-year-old in that heat. But I was appalled that she'd crossed a line. Ignoring Emily's complaints about the heat, my Mill had left to go shopping. Luckily, Emily was fine. It turns out my Mill intended to turn off the AC in Emily's room, but had accidentally turned off the one in the next room. She must have hit the wrong button on the remote. My Mill has a careless habit of not putting things back where they belong. Before, the TV remote for the living room came from my Mill's room, and there was even a time when the AC remote showed up in her car. She probably used the remotes from adjacent rooms haphazardly and didn't put them back, causing this issue. The room next to hers is my SIL's. Because the AC was turned off, my Sil ended up in a sweltering room and got heat stroke. When the paramedics said they needed someone to ride with her to the hospital, the first to volunteer was my Mill. But Mike, my husband, was furious. "Who do you think is responsible for this?" While she was taken aback by her son's yelling, Mike jumped into the ambulance. Seeing this, my Mill broke down in tears and shouted, "Sarah, get a grip." Oh, if only Emily had gotten heat stroke instead. I couldn't stand her selfish remarks any longer and was about to confront her. But one of the paramedics scolded her, "Enough. You knew what would happen if you turned off the AC in this scorching heat, right? This was a life-threatening situation. You need to seriously reflect on what you've done. My business is none of yours." I never intended to kill her. The remote was in her room. Even when scolded by the paramedic, my Mill was unapologetic, leaving me speechless. I realized it was pointless to talk to her and decided I could never forgive her. As the ambulance took away my Sil and Mike, I decided to head home with our 5-year-old daughter, Emily. My Mill, who couldn't ride in the ambulance, seemed to have made her own way to the hospital. Fortunately, my Sil recovered after receiving N4 and returned home the next day. I sighed in relief when I heard that there were no lasting ill effects. Shortly after, my Mill called Emily and me to come over. Mike also had his grievances, so we decided to go as a family of 3. Although I didn't want to take Emily after all the drama, I couldn't leave a 5-year-old alone. I know Mill will make snide comments, but I'm determined to protect Emily. Upon arrival, I was immediately yelled at by my Mill and told to apologize to my Sil. "If you hadn't left Emily with me, none of this would have happened. It's your fault, so go apologize to Sarah right now," my Mill says, making an unreasonable demand. I was so disgusted by her blame shifting that I calmly said, "Mill, you're scaring Emma. Please don't yell." But with her face turning red, Mill snapped, "Shut up, Eck. I wish I never had to see such a child. Maybe if Emily had died, you could have had a boy next." "I can't believe you'd say that," I yelled at her, holding Emma tightly. My mother-in-law seemed momentarily flustered, not expecting a retort from me. But in the next instant, she glared at me with a sour expression. "How dare you talk back to me? You're Mill. Kneel down and apologize right now." That's when my Sil interrupted. "What are you saying? Just stop it." Emily stood in front of her mom, defending me, and angrily said, "The only reason I didn't get seriously ill is because Emily called Alice for help. If Alice hadn't shown up and called an ambulance, I'd be in much worse shape." I had never seen Sarah this mad before. My Mill seemed just as shocked, taken aback by her beloved daughter yelling at her. When Emily had called me for help, I'd heard she was locked in a room and rushed over. However, there were some inconsistencies in Emily's story. She mentioned that my Mill pressed some remote in front of her, and that she heard a loud noise from the next room. At first, I thought the remote was for the air conditioner, but it didn't explain why Emily was in a cool room. Then it hit me when Emily said she heard a loud noise from the next room. Could my Mill have mistakenly turned off the air conditioner in Sarah's room? Sarah had mentioned she had a rare day off today. Was the loud noise from Sarah calling for help? Suspecting this, I hesitantly told Emily, "Press the blue button on the remote." When I reached the house, I found Emily locked in a room and got her out immediately. In the next room, Sarah was lying on the floor, her body extremely overheated. I called an ambulance, and while waiting, heard that Sarah had been working hard recently and hadn't been getting enough sleep. She was knocked out in bed on her day off and woke up with heat stroke. Even though she tried to call for help, she was too dizzy and nauseous to move. She couldn't find the remote for the air conditioner either. She'd reached her limit and fainted after falling from the bed. The noise Emily heard was Sarah falling off the bed. Fortunately, the room had cooled down a bit since Emily had pressed the air conditioner button. However, Sarah had severe heat stroke from being locked in a room that was up to 95 degrees Fahrenheit for a while. What if Emily had ignored that noise or thought it was her imagination and didn't tell me? I would never have noticed Sarah, and worst case scenario, she might have died. It gives me chills just thinking about it. Even as an adult, I almost died. How could you lock a child like Emily in a room like that? Don't you get that it's something you should never do to anyone? You should be apologizing. Not Alice. You're only not being charged with attempted murder out of goodwill. My Sil scolds with tears in her eyes, but my Mill remains silent. After a while, my Sil shoots a cold glare at my Mill, who merely repeats but with no sign of apology. Fine, I've reached my limit. I moved in to take care of you after Dad died. But I can't forgive you anymore, and I'm too scared to live here. I'll be moving out soon, my Sil finally declares, and my Mill's face changes. What are you saying? I've always cherished both you and Mike. You're both my family. My Mill yells, her face turning pale. Who nearly killed this cherished family, huh? My Sil snaps at my Mill, who responds by hysterically slamming her hand on the table. It's not just us, you know. Aren't Alice and Emily family to you too? Mike angrily questions our Mill. She snorts defiantly, looking at me with a mocking smile. Of course not. Neither your wife nor your child are related by blood. The realization that my daughter and I were never family to her isn't as shocking as I thought, even though Emily is her granddaughter by blood. Neither of us felt like correcting her. Mysil also seems to feel the same, as she looks at our mill with an emotionless gaze. There's no point in talking anymore. I'll pack my bags and leave. You'll have to deal with everything else on your own, she says firmly. My mill becomes hysterical, clinging to my SIL's arm and wailing, "No, don't decide on your own. You're going to live here with me forever. Stop making decisions for me. How about you learn to let go of your children? I'm cutting ties with you. Don't contact me ever again." Mysil firmly shakes off our mill's grasp and makes her ejection clear. "Wow, what?" Sarah, overwhelmed by the shock. My mill screams and runs out of the house. I later found out that she went around the neighborhood, claiming to be the victim and blaming everything on me. The next day, we all received a call from my mill while we were out. As soon as I answer, she starts yelling so loudly it hurts my ears, and I immediately want to end the call. Before I could ask what's going on, she starts telling me about the day. How the circuit breaker tripped and all the food in the fridge went bad. The freezer was also a mess. Furthermore, she couldn't record her favorite show, and she's furious because she thinks I'm the one who did it. "Did you do this? How much more do you need to harass me before you're satisfied? Look, we didn't do anything. The TV was on when we left. We haven't been back since. So it couldn't have been us," I deny. But she continues to accuse me. "You and Emily are both such nuisances. Just break up with Mike, and both of you should just go far away." Completely losing her temper, my mill even starts urging me to divorce. As if criticizing just me isn't enough, what on earth has Emily ever done to her? She's hell-bent on believing she lost Mike to us, stews in her own jealousy, and now she even demands a divorce. How self-centered can you get? I really wanted to yell back at her, but I was in a public place with a crowd around me. I didn't want to cause a scene for my family and the people nearby, so I took a deep breath to calm myself. Then I firmly stated, "I care deeply for Mike, and I intend to live together with Emily as a family of 3. Please stop making unreasonable demands for a divorce." I even added, "You may be Mike's mother, but I don't want to associate with someone who intentionally makes people miserable," and asked her to stay away from us. Still, my mill continued to shriek, "What nonsense are you spouting?" And I was about to hang up on her when my phone was snatched from my hand by someone next to me. It was Mysil who took my phone and started talking to my mill. "Hello, Mom. Yay, it's me, Sarah. Actually, I'm the one who switched off the breaker. Saved us a bit on the electricity bill for the night, right?" she said, smiling as she explained. "WHY, Sarah?" My mill was shouting so loud that I could hear her without having the phone to my ear. Why is Mysil with me? And why did she do something like flipping the circuit breaker at home? Facing these questions from my mill, Mysil said, "Mom, how many times have I told you not to leave unused lights on? You're the one always preaching about energy conservation. Even when I left the house, you had the TV and bathroom lights all on. I clearly told you I'd turn them off to save energy. And you said it was fine, so I did it. What's the big deal since we saved some energy?" She then smiled triumphantly. "What have you done? There's no excuse. Now we have to replace all the groceries, don't we? This is irreversible. Sarah, get back home right now. Seriously, what's the fuss? Just buy more groceries. It's not a big deal. Maybe you'll get even better ingredients next time. You care more about saving energy than people's lives." So I helped out. Anyway, I'm done here. Take care, but don't expect to hear from me again. Ignoring my mill's yelling, Sarah ended the call, I'm sorry for talking for so long, she said, handing me back my phone. No, it's fine. That was actually refreshing, I replied. It's almost time for our flight. Take care over there. It's still hot, so watch out for your health, I added. Sarah smiled and nodded. My Sil is moving far away today. Right now, we're a family of 3 at the airport, seeing her off. She had apparently been wanting to break free from our overly protective mill for quite some time. The place she's chosen to live is far enough away that our mill can't keep tabs on her. My Sil looked really happy as she left for her new life, and we waved her off with smiles. We've been keeping in touch and sharing updates since then. She seems to be enjoying her new life and is doing well. After she left, we also moved and started a new life in a different home. We haven't told our mill our new address, and we've blocked her calls, which has made life much more comfortable. Mike had been pretty fed up with our mill's smothering love, but felt obligated to tolerate it because she's his real mom. But after a recent incident, he decided enough was enough. My mill is now isolated in her community for endangering our daughter, Emily, and spreading lies about me. She found out we moved, but has no way to contact us. And with my Sil gone, she has no one to turn to. She's now living a lonely life, draining her late husband's savings. Whatever path she takes from here on is none of our concern. By the way, Sarah invited us over. I had recently talked to my Sil, and now that we're settled into our new home, she wants us to visit. Let's use the long weekend next month to visit her. Mike agreed wholeheartedly, and Emily is thrilled about the plane ride, so we're all looking forward to it. Next time we meet, we plan to tell her that she'll soon have a nephew. We're excited to live a happy life as a family of 4, watching Emily grow and welcoming the new baby boy on the way.